Look, you just take a bunch of letters, smush them together.
Pick out some Scrabble letters and buy some fucking stocks. R, RT, RTX, Raytheon. Don't know nothing about it. 200 grand Raytheon market order. Done.
Welcome back to James Talks. That was Davey Day Trader, aka Dave Portnoy. And yes, he really was picking stocks randomly by using letters from a Scrabble bag. On this channel, I talk about investing I'm doing. Today, I'll cover a portfolio update. I've gotten some questions about Tesla, so I'm going to cover my conviction there in a little more depth today. Also, Tesla had some news this week of a stock split. I'll cover what my thoughts are. Stick around. Dave seems a lot like that friend you had that went to Vegas, won a bunch of money, and came back and bought a red Camaro. I don't know him, but first, let me just say kudos. Anybody that's got $3 million to invest in the market knows something the rest of us probably don't know. And let's be real about it. My portfolio is not $3 million, so I'm not going to give him any advice or tell him anything he should be doing or scold him or anything like that. I think he's having fun. He's using this time of uncertainty to his own advantage and really just poking a little fun at the media and coverage. I will say I think he isn't so far off when he says, like, hey, just pick stocks, hold them, and they go up. Because what we've seen over the last 3-6 months is that the government has decided that stocks only go up. And that there's not really been a huge downside when the Fed is going to come in and buy bonds. They may buy equity. They've let everyone know. They'll do anything right now to keep the market going one direction. So I think Dave's having a little bit of fun with that. And that's not something I'm personally going to follow, but I don't think it's so outlandish to say, hey, this is why it's worked. A couple people have asked me, why Tesla? Why now? And if you don't know the backstory, I'd been following Tesla for some time, and around March, when it hit about its low, I bought some shares, and since that time, it's tripled in value. So let's jump into why Tesla, and I'll put some of my thoughts together. First, I just wanted to say that I think a big part of my rationale for buying Tesla was YouTube itself. And what do I mean by that? Today, right now, just like you can fix just anything in your house, your toilet, your lawnmower breaks, your grill, there's a problem with, your computer, there's a problem with. You look to YouTube for a video of how to fix that. In the same way, there is a whole bunch of niche creators just centered around Tesla. So what that provides is a lot of interesting analysis and a lot of different voices that are talking about Tesla, what they're doing, what they think the long-term outlook is. So I think it's for me important to like go directly to the source of Tesla, but it's also nice to have somebody shedding their own thoughts and sharing them for the rest of us. So I'll just mention a few people that I think are super interesting to follow. If you're interested at all in Tesla, you absolutely should be following them. The first one's Hyperchange. So Gally has been following Tesla for a long time. He makes a lot of interesting content based mostly around Tesla, but also other companies in the EV space, and has a site dedicated to following some of the financials, bringing them in, taking a look at what his expected revenue will be in 5 years, what their market share is today, just a little bit easier digestion of what Tesla is doing and other EV vehicles are doing. Gally is super animated. He makes a lot of content, so it's easy to follow, and you'll catch right up if you start following him. The next creator I'd recommend is Dave Lee. So Dave's got a great background. He's made some really interesting content on Tesla. He's been a bull for almost 10 years, I think, in the company. He started by posting in forums on Tesla. He's got a lot of conviction, and he really goes through his own position, why he thinks the company is a breakout and has been a breakout for a long time. So I really recommend Dave. He's got a nice long form style of what his reasoning is and is open to input. So check Dave out as well. Next, I'd recommend Now You Know, which is a father-son team who do some Tesla Time news and produce quite a bit. Similar content to Gally and Dave. So yeah, I think you're going to see some overlap here between a couple of these channels, but they've got an interesting take and are also following the EV space pretty tightly, not just with Tesla, but with other automakers as well. Next, I just recommend YouTube itself. It's amazing. You can learn a lot about the science behind electric vehicles and batteries and why they're different, and some of the optimizations that are happening now in the EV space. So I think it's hard to kind of understand some of this on your own, and what YouTube has done is provided a platform to really condense a lot of thick material down and complicated subjects down into bite-sized morsels that we can all digest. And the science is one of the big drivers behind Tesla. It's one of the big things that I think is important as I'm evaluating the company is, do they have a competitive advantage? Is that competitive advantage maintainable? What is the trajectory of the science? And are they at the front? And a lot of those are obviously yes, I wouldn't invest in them. Next, I'd recommend a book, and I'll put this in the show notes. This is by Ashley Vance, and it's basically an unvarnished look at Elon Musk. So Ashley was following Elon, he tells a great story in the book about how at first it didn't look like he was going to get any kind of blessing from Elon to make the book, and by determination and some grit, he basically worked his way into a position where Elon felt okay having him talk to friends, family, close associates, and provided kind of behind the scenes access to what he was doing at Tesla and SpaceX. So I think I'll just comment on a couple of high points from the book. I think it's really a great read if you're interested at all in Tesla and Elon. Elon's a super controversial figure, which is good in a way for the stock because there has to be somebody on the other side of that trade. Is the way I look at it. There has to be somebody that's like a doubter, a hater, for the stock to really make sense. And there's no lack of doubters and haters. Elon's story is incredible. It's in a lot of ways the American dream, right? He's an immigrant that came from South Africa by way of Canada to the U.S. He started SpaceX, as we all know now, and Tesla, but has had a really great outlook, I think, from a young age is what you learn in the book. And the way I think about it is like, while I was drinking beer in college, Elon had already figured out that he wanted, to work in these certain segments, electric cars. He kind of saw the path to DNA sequencing becoming what it would today, that AI would be the next step. Like, these are all things that he had already kind of figured out at a young age and said, these are the areas I want to focus on in my life and to push humanity kind of forward on. Another thing that kind of comes through in the book that I think is interesting is Elon's his drive. So it's one thing to talk about, hey, I want to do all these things. Is another one to really execute and stay focused and to work like crazy. So that's a big part of the book, as you see his work ethic, how he looks at problems, how he breaks them down, and comes through loud and clear that this is a person that is incredibly driven. There's not an ounce of luck that kind of plays into a lot of this. It's really drive and determination and execution. So everybody can say, I want to start an EV company. electric vehicle. Everybody can say, GM has been saying, Ford for years, they wanted to do electric, but weren't able to execute in a way that makes them at all competitive right now. Another, tidbit would be the execution for Elon in the payment space, which he had originally started a company called X and merged later with PayPal, which we all know today was wildly successful. And PayPal at its inception was really like getting used to transfer money between Palm Pilots, and kind of pivoted and executed in a way to make it kind of a global clearinghouse for payments today. So foresight, drive, and execution, all super clear parts of the book. And I really recommend a read if you're at all interested in Elon and finding out more about him. One last thing I'll mention real quick as I'm doing an overview of Tesla conviction is Ark Invest. So this is a firm led by Cathie Wood. It's a fund, but there have been huge bulls on Tesla for a long time. And I think they are nice because they publish a lot of their research directly on the site. So I'll link to this in the show notes. And this was something they had put out, I think, back in January, where they had broken down the reasoning for their price targets on Tesla. And today they still have an expected value of $7,000. Their bear case for 2024 price targets was $1,500, which is less than what the stock's at right now. So I'm not going to go through this in a lot of detail, but just take a look at sort of this graph here with just selling EV vehicles. The bear case is like Tesla struggles. They're struggling for a long time. They're at $1,500. The median, like they execute decently, $2,700. And then the bull case of, Tesla really does crack autonomous driving. They're at $7,000, which they spell out more here. And I'll go through this probably on a later video if you'd like, but I think it's a really strong model to look at and worth some time. Let's jump into a portfolio update. This is a portfolio I've been investing in throughout the year. It's composed of Tesla and Vanguard Mid-Cap Index funds. So an update is we're up to $82,764. That's all market gains from the last week. Tesla is part of that. And we'll talk about the stock split here in a second. But the mid-cap is also appreciating as the entire market rises right now. Tesla has announced a stock split, 5-for-1. So for every one share of Tesla you have right now, they're going to give you 5 in exchange. And essentially, this should be not big news, right? Like you're getting more shares, but they're at the end of the day worth the same amount of money. The reason that they've been hinting at this and why it makes sense for the stock price itself, but not necessarily for any kind of actual meaningful return on the company, is because of just the run up in the price has priced out some investors. So let me give you an example. If you've got $200 to invest today, not $2,000, not $10,000, you've got $200, and the stock costs $1,500, you can go with a fractional share broker like M1 Finance, but not every broker does that. Vanguard doesn't do fractional shares, and that means that you're going to be waiting until you save enough money to buy one share. And it takes a lot of conviction, I think, to save enough, honestly, for the normal person. For me, it would be like, okay, save just to buy the one share. So I think this is good news overall for the investor, because they're going to see more buyers come into the market, even if it's just a percentage. It's hard to imagine how many people are out there buying stock, but there's a lot. So even a fraction of a percent more buyers will increase the value, and that's why the market, I think, has reacted the way it has, of driving the price up in the last week. So nothing meaningful for the business, but absolutely, I think, a good decision in the interest of the stockholders and the investors. So I think this is good news. All right, thank you for watching this episode. Really enjoyed making it, and if you have more questions about convictions on Tesla, I'm happy to go through that. If you've got any other questions, please comment down below. And if you could do me a favor and put a like on the video, it helps the algorithm get out to other folks who are interested in the same topic. Have a great week.